Polymer clay! Why haven't I made anything with this stuff before? I don't know. I think I always felt like I needed to have a specific idea in mind in order to use it, otherwise it would be a waste because the packets are so tiny. However, a little while ago there was a reduced price on these Hobbycraft polymer packs, so I picked 2 up and figured they would be ready when I had a bright idea. Today is the ding day. Ping! I want to make wordsearch coasters, and initially I had planned to use air dry clay for this project, but having just remembered that I have these polymers, I thought we could try these instead. What do you reckon? Will they work okay? Let's go see. So I think these are pretty nice colours. Obviously I chose them at a time with no project in mind, so I just went with my inner colour sniffer. Weird phrase. It's a pretty firm block and I soon realised I just need to lean into the smoosh to get it workable. I'm a bit of a slow smoosher, so cue the speedy smoosh montage. Okay, let's flatten this blob. I've got my rolling pin and it seems pretty easy and non-sticky to roll. Also, if you're wondering, I'm using a silicone baking mat as my surface just because it's easy to lay out and nothing sticks to it. I'm sorry if it's not the most aesthetic background, but it is practical. It's at this point I realise I need some kind of wooden sticks to act as thickness guides in order to create an evenly levelled coaster. Hold on while I wander around the shed looking for stuff. Eventually I found these 2 bits, which were thinner than I wanted, but at least they were the same. Let's roll with it. Once it was big enough, I used a basic cookie cutter to cut it into a circle. And then, having realised that this stuff is quite bendy and robust, I got sidetracked utterly by the joy of moving the leftover outer circle as a mouth. Hello. How are you? Once re-squished, I popped those leftovers back into the plastic wrap it came in. Hopefully it might stay usable for another day. So here's the next major element of this project, little letter stamps. I have no clue where I got these, as it was so long ago that I bought them. I just know that they were super cheap. I hadn't really ever thought to use them on clay, but when I thought about making a wordsearch coaster, they did seem the obvious choice. They are very simple and some of the rubber letters are a bit off-centre, but we'll see how we go. Having started to organise them into a rough alphabet, I realised I could line them up in one of the rings of my mat so they were easy to see and use. So very pleasing. I wasn't too sure if it was better to start with the grid lines and fill the letters in, or to start with the letters and insert the grid lines around them. And throughout this project, I sort of did a bit of both. Also, if you're muttering to yourself that I should have made a test patch of lines and letters on a piece of leftover clay first to test how hard to push and how far to space them, well, yes, I absolutely should have done that. You are much wiser than me. However, I did not. I just went straight on in. I think it's because having done more with air dry clay, where mistakes can be smoothed out as you go along, I was feeling like I'd just figure it out as I went. So after printing some letters very wonky and realising that they wouldn't simply smooth out with my finger, I re-smooshed, re-rolled, recut and started again. I decided to make these as memory coasters, so the words that I'm hiding in my word searches are going to be the names of some of our dearly remembered pets. Over the years in our family, we have been lucky to enjoy times with many fluffy friends and even a not so fluffy big snail. All of them made our lives fuller, and I feel very lucky to have known them. For today's coasters, I'm going to focus on the cats we've known. We had them in pairs, so 2 cats together who were buddies or related, so it feels right to put their names in couples on these coasters. On this blue one, I'm starting with Maya and Evie, who we adopted as kittens together because, although not related, in the rescue centre they had become best friends and we didn't want to separate them. I found it easiest to press a few letters and then press a line and work my way through that way, figuring out the spacing as I went along. At one point I pressed a T and it came out really low down. I hadn't realised until then that some of the rubber letters were cut a bit wrong, not positioned directly in the centre, and so from then on I was checking each one to see if I needed to position each stamp higher to account for the off space. In general, it was a really quiet, calm activity to fill in all of those random letters around the names. I put some music on and zoned out with Evie and Maya sitting purring in my head. This is how it looked, and as you can see there are lots of imprints from the edges of the circular stamps, which are a bit annoying. I went to Google to see if there was a way to smooth out smaller areas like that, and I saw a few people saying to try isopropanol alcohol with a cotton bud, which amazingly I had lurking in the shed. So I sprayed a little in a pot and tried smoothing out those areas, while also trying not to lose the grid lines or the letters. I feel like it kind of worked a bit. I might not have pressed down hard enough as I was being a bit tentative. It made it a bit better. Not perfect, but who the heck needs that? I left it to dry and then went to my purple polymer clay to make my second coaster. On this second coaster, I was remembering our sister and brother kitty duo, Lottie and Tom. I just about fit Lottie's name on there. After smoothing with the alcohol, I reaffirmed some of the lines that had gotten a little bit smooshed and popped both coasters on a baking tray. I left them half an hour for the alcohol to dry and then it was oven time. When they came out, the edges felt a little snaggy, so I grabbed some fine sandpaper and smoothed them off. This is very awkwardly filmed, but you get the idea. So this is how they look. Do they seem okay? I followed the packet instructions, so they were in the oven at 130 degrees for 30 minutes. I have no clue if they cured correctly in that time. I'm not certain what this clay is supposed to look like when it's baked. If there are any polymer clay makers watching, do let me know if you spot anything off in the bake with these. But they feel sturdy, so I'm happy enough. I wasn't too sure if I should paint them or how I should, but in the end I decided to sponge acrylic white paint, and I gotta say, the moment I started sponging I was very pleased I did, because it felt like I was covering them in icing sugar. It just felt very satisfying. I tried not to push too hard as I didn't want to paint the insides of the letters, and I did catch a few, but oh well. So here they are, fully sponged, and I really like the dusted look. On the blue one, some of my lines were shallower, so I lost a couple of those in the paint, but I don't really mind. In looking at them, I thought I'd like to do one more thing to somehow highlight the names in the grid. I decided to paint the box around a letter, but in an absolutely topsy-turvy move, I chose gold paint for it. Why did I choose gold? I knew it was wrong the moment the first brushstrokes went down. But I figured I had started, so I might as well see what the full square looked like, and it did look horrible, and so I thought I'd probably paint over it once it was dry, but because I had wanted to highlight the M too, I painted that in gold as well, so at least when I repainted them both, they would look the same. Having learned from that mistake, on the purple coaster, I stuck with white. I painted around each letter initial, and then, because I liked it, I decided to paint around the full names. I like it that now the names are lifted a little bit more, but they're not so bold as to feel separate from the rest of the grid. It's fun too that inadvertently I created some other words in each grid. In the purple one there is cup, and in the blue one there is joy, which is rather lovely. All of our cats brought us cups full of joy. Which version do you like better? Highlighting the full names or just highlighting the initials? And let me know in the comments, if you made coasters like these, who or what might you remember? Pets? People? Places? Thanks so much for watching. It means a lot that you came by. Stay curious, keep making happy, and I'll see you next time.